with everybody. Call to order, and then I'll ask, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Anybody? I see none, so we'll carry on. Next piece, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at them? Anybody got any questions or any changes? No. Okay, I guess we should move that we'll approve the minutes. Next is approval of the agenda. The only one thing that's not on here is, I think Pat has something to say.
Do you want me to do that now?
Sure.
A lot of you do know this, and I know that Neil's sick and tired of hearing it already. This is my last meeting of the Economic Development Task Force. I will be retiring at the end of the month. So just wanted to say what a great group this has been, and it's been a pleasure to work at Center Wellington.
Yeah, and I'm sure every one of us, Pat, is we're very glad to have had you as part of the group. It's been great. We've made a lot of progress in a lot of ways, and you know, you're a key part of it. So
thank you.
We all thank you.
Yeah, and congratulations on your retirement. Well earned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It sounds like something that's very like a lot of us would want to do right now, actually. I just wanted to make a couple comments too, Pat. The work that you've done, especially during COVID, this has been a real tough time for everybody, and how quickly you'd be able to move with this group here. You know, and all the stuff we're doing with the BAAs, you know, we're doing so many things so fast, and I really appreciate all your time and effort and ability to adapt and be flexible. And yeah, I just wanted to wish you all the best in your retirement. Make sure you keep us in the loop as to what adventures you're gonna do. And yeah, thanks for everything, Pat. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sure I won't be a stranger up there, because I really love the businesses and stores and atmosphere up in Center Wellington. So I'll be coming up a lot to do shopping and just visiting, and being able to enjoy patios and all of the other things that Center Wellington has to offer. So
Great. Okay, thank you, Pat. Thanks from everybody, I'm sure. Okay, so next one is the Craig Betts and Jessica Dunbar. Are they in the waiting room? Devlin?
They should be coming in now.
Okay, good.
Oh.
Welcome, Jessica.
Good morning. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to Economic Development.
It's great. Thank you so much for having myself, and Craig will just be joining in a second. I think he's connecting there. So very much appreciated to come on today. I will give some quick overview. My daughter, who's 4 years old, is in the house. So if the door opens, I apologize. I'll try and mute myself right away. But she's being taken care of, so it should be all good. Yeah. So yes, I'm not sure. I've never been, so thank you. And I'll let you guys kind of lead me into how you do these meetings.
Okay, I'm the chair, and basically what happens is we get someone like yourselves, and we really appreciate you speaking to us today. It's good. This is economic development. So we kind of look at all kinds of economic development, and you're a key part of it. And it's really good that you're going to help us. The meeting is live streamed, so it will go out into the community. So it's not just us you're talking to; it's everybody, whoever picks it up. So it's really good. So there's Craig. Craig, welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm the chair, and we welcome you to the meeting, and we really look forward to your presentation. So go to her.
All right, that's great. We really appreciate the invite, and happy to be here this morning. I know Jess is going to walk us through the presentation. I'm here for support and certainly to ask any or answer any questions or assist in any way I can. So, Jess, over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to attempt the share screen. We usually work in teams. So I think, Devlin, if you can do the share screen, because it says the host disabled participant screen sharing. I know I flipped you the deck. Awesome. Thank you. So, excellent. So for those of you that haven't seen this presentation, I know we did send it out as a corporation. I sent it obviously to the council, the mayor, CAO, and as well as the MPP. So we wanted to just kind of have a chance to really showcase or present what we have done since we've opened. And obviously being a business in the community here in Elora, it's I'm proud to show some of the health and safety measures and some of the information that we have had done at this at our property here. So if we can start on the next slide. Excellent. So a lot of words, sorry for this, and I'll just kind of recap it very briefly, but we did present this to our regulators, AGCO, who was one, along with obviously public health, a number of different people that have seen this presentation. We wanted to make sure if somebody wasn't actually walking you through the presentation, you still had a chance to review all of the information that we had, and we wanted you to get kind of an overview picture of what we've done. So just the first bullet, like just to let you know, we are a very large company across Canada. So Great Canadian is a great name, to say one, but we do operate across from Atlantic to BC. With the modernization that happened, obviously Great Canadian purchased the property at Grand River, and we have been with them for since May of 2019. So we've had that change over. Grand River, you know, we have 137 employees at our property here in Elora alone. Most of this deck has data and information that is shared to present across all of Ontario and or all of the country. So just so that when you're reading some of these statistics and data in here, it is our whole company of information, but we do get specific to Grand River in one slide, and I can speak to any questions that you have for Grand River specifically. Obviously, with what we've been going through, we definitely, the safe operating and opening of our business was essential. We needed to make sure that when we were going to open and get the okay from the province, from our region, that we had a plan in place and it was absolutely ready to go before we opened the door. So prior to opening, we had, I believe we sent to some of you, not all of you may have seen it, but we did up a health and safety plan on how we were going to safely open. We've shared that across the region, and we'll speak to some of those things, but it needed to be like vetted through multiple people, medical professionals, third party. We wanted to make sure that it was going to work for not only just in Ontario's regulations and COVID specific situations, but potentially across Canada as well. So there was a lot of people working on it. And then with our opening, we did have the opportunity, obviously in September of 2020, to open up in Ontario, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. For those that don't know, we had a cap at 50 people at our property. So we're used to having many more people visit our property, and we had a significant reduction in those that would be able to attend. Any questions from anybody so far? I could maybe stop if there's any. No?
I just wanted to jump in, Jess, and let you know that we actually started in 2018, not 19.
You know what? As soon as I said it, I was like, wait, where's my timing? Yeah, thank you.
I feel like everybody's lost a year, though. I feel like I'm still in.
Right.
Probably it.
That's what mat leave does to some people too when it happens right at that transition period. So the next slide is good if you would, Delvin, thank you. So this is a slide basically overall is the provincial economic impact across the whole company that we've had. There's some big numbers and some, obviously the pandemic has affected every single business everywhere. We have that kind of situation where we do give to Ontario. We do support and give back. So you'll see the $1.2 billion of revenue that we contribute to the province. And it fell. We were closed. We had zero contribution to the province because we weren't open, unfortunately. In Ontario, we had over 6,000 people that lost their jobs. It's a terrible story to tell. Obviously, some financial situations. Sorry for the noise. I do live on Geddes, so you will hear a little bit of moving of traffic. Hopefully that doesn't affect anyone. But it's the 1.2 billion, 96% across Ontario of reduction in employees. And then the community piece, all communities that have casinos in their regions have seen a 60% reduction in the community purchases. And then obviously you guys understand the community payments. We'll get to Elora and Center Wellington a little bit more specifically, but in the next slide, but it's obviously had a huge impact. This is what we've done on a provincial scale, what we have done from a company standpoint. Craig, is there anything you wanted to add into that?
No, I think that's good. Thanks, Jess.
Okay. Next slide, please. So Elements Casino Grand River. For those of you that may be aware, we did get to open twice. The second being very short-lived as of 8 days, but we did open from September till December. And we were able to get some of our team back. It was really a great feeling after being out for the entire summer to have some of our local community team members actually come back to work. Unfortunately, though, because we were capped at 50 people, we weren't able to bring back our entire team. We were on a much smaller scale of business. We were doing absolutely no food and beverage. So we did have basically 55% reduction in our employees return to our at Elements Casino Grand River. Based on our prior capacity regulations at the property, we could have up to 900 people on our gaming floor, and we were capped at 50. So a 95% reduction in what we were able to have on our floor. Also, like obviously the vendors that have normally been a part of us, like, we always use Drimmy's and we have the Laura Brewing Company in the property. And I mean, just all the different contractors and vendors across that need to come and assist with the property. We definitely aren't supporting because of the closures. The tourism that comes to the property because of our business, you can see the local spend. I mean, it is a tourism industry that we operate in. We have the racetrack beside us with Grand River Agricultural Society. They have people coming. We have people coming. It does create local spend, obviously, with our business. And then obviously that spend for you guys and those that are aware, it's about 2.2 million that comes back to the host community. That has obviously seen a great reduction because of our closure. So, thank you. So I think it's important with the reopening and what we've done. This again is not specific to Grand River, but more on a global scale. We have close to 500,000 guests that were coming into these casinos. We set up this health and safety plan that we needed to make sure was set across and that was going to work for everybody. It's a scary thing. We want to make sure that we're safe. We know that, you know, the demographic that's coming in, we need to make sure that there was no risk and that number one priority was people feeling safe. Coming into our business, it is the only important thing that we had. So we're very fortunate to say that when we have been open, the two different opportunities, the 3 months and then most recently for about 8 days, we had 0 cases across all of the company, across all. Any site that opened, 0 guest cases were resulted. We did unfortunately have 7, but I just want to make it very clear that these were contracted outside of Great Canadian's properties. So, you know, linked from family home members and what have you. It was not contracted in the actual property. The plan that we put together, and just to speak to the employee piece, is I think we've seen in the media and we understand that obviously there is, it's not just front facing guest interactions that can, you know, catch COVID. It is the behind back of house. It is in your lunchrooms. It's in the washrooms. It's in those areas that actually are where these employees are catching this terrible, you know, situation. So we made sure that our front-facing guest customer was super high standard, but to the same standard as what is back of house. So our lunchrooms, there's plexiglass, one person can sit at a table. There's floor markers on everywhere. There's capacity signs to go into any room, any office, anywhere in our building. You would know what the capacity was to get into that space. So hand sanitizing stations, likely every 10 feet, signage that we put up, plexiglass, a number of different things that we put in place to make sure that back of house was just as safe as front of house, and our employees are number one. Like we need them to feel safe to be able to come into work and feel confident. So I think we can move to the next slide. So guest feedback, this is just, we did survey all of the guests that attended any of the properties while we have been open. So I think the important piece is that over 6,000 people were surveyed. And in our line of business, we usually get a lot of people that are willing to give their honest, critical opinion on how we run the business. They like to find ways to improve our business. Fortunately, in this guest survey response, we were able to, you know, overwhelmingly satisfy our guests that had attended, from a feeling of like the first bullet, like how satisfied are you with the health and safety measures taken since reopening? Very satisfied and satisfied, 91%. I mean, that's fantastic numbers for us. Again, I go back to the piece of making sure people feel safe, that they're safe in the community, that they're safe coming to the property, and that we have measures that will work to make them want to come back and not be fearful, right? It is the most important thing when you walk into any business, any establishment these days. Are there markers? Are there, you know, physical barriers? Are there anything in place that makes sure that I can be safe from the next person beside me? Because I don't know if they've washed their hands. So I want to make sure that I am as protected as possible. So we've also deactivated slot machines. On the very bottom right-hand side, you can see that, you know, what was, you know, how did it make, what were the best measures that were put in place? And how we're set up, for those of you that have been in the property, it's rows of slot machine and some circles of slot machines and what have you, but we actually would have one game live, 2 games out of service, and then another game up with a barrier in between the two. And even like cross aisles and what have you, they had to be a minimum of 2 meters, 2 meters everywhere. So all of those pieces, you couldn't actually be that close to somebody else while you were playing, along with the fact with our capacity at 50%, there was very limited a chance when we had 100 machines available that you would be that close to any one other person. So, and the last bullet is just the one in the bottom dead center is 96%. Like, I feel comfortable with the current health and safety measures in place. That is more than we could ask for. So it's fantastic, in my opinion. And so employee feedback, obviously we needed to survey our employees because they're just as important as our guests in making sure that we're providing, that safe feeling to everybody. So when we opened, we did reorientation sessions with our team members, and overwhelmingly their question was, what are our policies? What are we going to be doing to make sure that it's safe for me to come back to work? It was a really scary time in September. And again, back in March when we were reopening again, we put in place a number of things of mandatory masks at all times, all of the hand hygiene stations that are located everywhere. But the likelihood for our team members to raise concerns or share with us anything that they thought was possibly unsafe or not up to the standard that we wanted, we made sure that they felt that they could come to us. And I think that's a very important piece, is that if your team members and your staff aren't willing, or they're fearful in telling you that they may think there's something wrong or not quite to the standard, you're going to be missing a piece. They're the eyes and ears of your company. You need to, be able to listen to them to see areas of where you can change and implement procedures that are going to be best for them and their safety. So great to say 96% of them were likely to, raise those safety concerns. And then 85% in believing that the commitment to our health and safety measures were adequate, right? So I think as you look at the bottom, some of those pillar graphs there, you can go across the different things that we actually put in place. And the team overall were very pleased and satisfied with with what we put in place. Anything to add, Craig? You good?
I think that was really well covered. And as Jess said, employees sometimes are not afraid to tell us when they feel we don't have it right. And one of the biggest things that we sometimes face in our surveys is staff have a reluctance to sometimes bring things forward. And that's something that, you work on, I think, in any business for years, especially when you have a large employee group, to try to, bring in open door policies and make people feel comfortable in raising a concern. And when we had a 96%, positive response rate on I'll raise it. I mean, obviously, COVID is not something that anybody wants to take lightly and fool around with. And our employees are saying, yeah, we have no issues raising it. But I think in those, orientation sessions we did where we handed out new health and safety plans, which were basically entire workbooks to employees. The other thing, and I think Jess will mention it on the next slide, is that we implemented for every position on every shift something we call it an inventory of interactions, and basically it's a log system of exactly all of the things that employee must do on their shifts. And some of these things are broken out into 15-minute increments or 1 hour sessions or every half an hour. So if you are a cashier and you work at that station, there's a number of things that you have to fill out on every shift. That's confirm that you've wiped down counters on a semi-regular basis, and that there's multiple protocols that are put in place. So when we rolled that out to our staff when they first returned in September, and then again we rolled it out on the second when they came back the second time, we had an overwhelmingly positive response from staff on just exactly how much attention and care we were putting into it. And Jess had mentioned it earlier. It is absolutely our number one priority, without any issue, without any hesitation at all. That health and safety is at the very top. That's been made clear from the most senior executives in our company from day one. that we've been given an opportunity to open. That's all that matters to us right now, is that we do it in a safe and healthy way, so that our guests and staff can continue to come back repeatedly. So with that, Jess, I'll hand it back to you. I know I probably took some of the piece on your next slide around the staff interactions, but we were very pleased with this, and our staff, that did return came, in really all of them came up to us at different times and said, we're really pleased. We were really nervous to come back, but we feel very comfortable with what's been in place. So thanks for that, Jess. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we can move to the next slide, please. Excellent. Yeah. So, and just to support what Craig just mentioned, on the right-hand side there, you can see the cleaning checklist program. So we had identified exactly what to do at all times, with signatures, little initials, that it had been completed. And so we've done over 5,000 audits in the time since we've been open. And on that, to make sure that everybody was adhering to the protocols that we put in place. The other piece of that is, you can't always be with your employees and do the checklist is kind of after the fact. So we wanted to make sure that there was a secondary system in place of how we were auditing it. And we have surveillance who do audits on our staff to make sure that they're cleaning to the standards set that were put in place. So they review partial shift of an employee to make sure that they are actually cleaning and making sure it's safe. After every guest, touches the keypad, they are sanitizing it down. Anytime a slot attendant walks out to a slot machine and resets after a hand pay, they're wiping down all of the touch points that they could so the guests can then play, because they need to, that is a part of what we put in place. So all of that has been completely new to our staff. They've never done these audits before. So it was coming back to a whole new business. The way that we did our business, it was the same business, excuse me. It was just a different way of doing their job and adding on an additional duty because of these COVID measures that have been put in place. So just to speak to the left portion of the slide is anytime, maybe if you've driven by, you would have potentially seen a lineup at different times. We would insist that every single guest that came into our property was wearing a face covering properly. We actually had strict guidelines on which ones were appropriate and which ones were not. The bandana ones were not approved, and with the little vents, those were not approved. So we would issue guest masks because we purchased and we made sure that we had some available. Every single person would have a face mask that entered and would wear it for the duration of their stay. We have had some incidents where people were not willing to wear them, even from a medical perspective, that were, basically didn't have to wear one. We insisted, and we would refuse entry if they were not willing to wear the face mask. That was firm and in place at all times. So we did have people that we had to remove from the property for not properly wearing the guest mask or the face mask, excuse me. And again, this slide, I should mention that it is across Great Canadians openings. This is not all at Grand River that happened, but we did have two interactions where we did have to refuse entry to guests due to not wearing a face covering. So I was involved in one of those conversations. It's not easy, especially if it's a medical situation, but it is what we are upholding to, and not being a essential service, we put that in motion and decided that that was our best course of action to make sure that our other guests and our staff and employees were going to be safe at all times. And that's it. So I think if anybody has any questions, I think it's really great. Just to wrap up from myself, I just became the general manager, so 2 years ago, but I have been at the property for over 10 years. So I have been in the community. I've been there I've worked with these team members and you may recognize me, but now, COVID has kind of put a situation where I haven't been able to meet all of you. I haven't had a chance to have conversations. I know, like I see Sally there, who's, totally was cheering us on when we did our big expansion and wanted to do a grand reopening for us. And then COVID hit. So we really appreciate the support that we do get from the community. And I do hope in very soon, I'll be able to welcome you to the property to do a tour, can show you the new building and how everything's been expanded. Now, that Grass and Agricultural Society has expanded their building. Now we've got two beautiful, newly renovated spaces that are large spaces for the community and will promote tourism without a doubt. So I thank you. I thank you for the opportunity, for the support that you guys have given us. And I'd like to turn it over if there's any questions, or Craig, if you want to wrap up anything.
Thank you, Jessica and Craig. Any questions, Tony?
Yeah, I just have a question regarding the inventory of interactions.
Yeah.
Was this a paper-based system, or did you manage to develop a computer audit program?
So we would have a paper-based system for each employee, and then scan it and actually put it and log it into a database so that we could then go back in time and look at every single shift and digitally to review every day what has happened on those shifts.
Yeah, I
so
think that would
a little bit of
also,
both.
that would also allow our surveillance teams to go in and randomly select one of those paper-based things, and then they would go back in time and start to review that employee shift to make sure that they were in fact completing, not just checking the boxes.
Just to follow up, Don, I'm curious as to your thoughts, because you're not the first company that I've heard do this, but I'm of the feeling that this will become the new normal for due diligence and mitigation against potential liability for just about any health-related risk in the future.
Yes, I agree. It's all coming more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Pat, yes.
So that we have an idea of just how impactful this pandemic has been on everyone. Any idea of like how much money that you've spent on making the adaptations to your facility and PPE and those kind of costs that it's been?
That is a great question, and I can tell you across the country, it would be very difficult for me to estimate. I think the plexiglass alone that we ordered around the country was $500,000 just in plexiglass. So that doesn't include the my gosh, we had ordered pallets of face coverings and
Sanitizing white
gloves,
bins.
and sanitizing stations, pumps. We are into several millions of dollars. I don't know exactly, Pat, what that total number is across the country, but it's a substantial investment for sure. If there's something more specific you wanted on that, Pat, I could probably try to get back to you through Jess.
No, I just really wanted just to, everyone to have an idea of just how just that aspect alone has been an expenditure that you're really not getting the revenue to cover.
Oh, yeah, it's been tremendous. Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff is going to be stuff that goes forward. I think that even when we do reopen, there will still be face coverings and hand wipes and sanitizer and all of those things going forward for as Tony said, the new normal. So
it's interesting to think about that just on all of our levels. Whether you're talking about like, how do you ever, you even, I don't know if you guys feel this, you were watching TV and you see footage of people packed into an arena, and all of a sudden you just kind of say, oh my gosh, how can that ever happen again? So I don't know what the new normal will be, but I think you're right on that, and we're certainly ready for it and kind of ramped up, and to I think Tony's point raised on the inventory of interactions. That's just the level of due diligence, and I think it's incumbent on all companies to do that. And Jess, mentioned about the back of house. I'm not trying to point a critical finger at anybody, but it seems to me from a lot of things that we read, that's where a lot of companies have been failing, is, not enforcing things in break rooms and the back house, and those areas are just so critically important. We would talk about it as a team, through the properties, and talk about, you could almost see it, and you see it in grocery stores. Like, it's almost like staff will look at each other and say, well, I know you, so you don't have it. It's everybody else I'm afraid of. And that's really the key that we were saying, like, we've got to be diligent and on top of this with everybody. It's 2 meters, no matter who it is.
That's great. Jessica and Craig, thank you very much. I agree with one thing that's kind of good, I guess, with the whole thing is most of us have the hard, if you will, fixtures in place, the plexiglass, the sanitizers. We're still going to have the ongoing cost of replacing the more masks and more sanitizer, but at least a lot of the hard stuff is in place now. So anyhow, on behalf of the Economic Development Committee, I'd like to thank both of you, and keep it up, and let's everybody hope. Pat?
Sorry, Don, I just wanted to ask a question. If the provincial government has given you any idea of what the criteria is that needs to be met in order for a reopening to happen?
At this time, I mean, not specifically, more so than any other community. I mean, we watch the epidemiology kind of numbers and that type of thing. We're obviously, we shared this deck throughout all of the different municipalities just to raise awareness, to let people know, we have been capped at about, a 4% of what our total maximum capacity was, and that we do a great job in health and safety. And I mean, it's obviously our hope that our track record will kind of show and say, we think we know we can do better. We can do more, that is, in terms of the number of folks that are in the opening. But obviously for right now, we're still in the same lockdown situation that everybody else is, and certainly abiding by that to the absolute letter of the law. We don't Jess does not go into the property, and we've cut off all non-absolutely essential facilities work and everything else that goes in there. So for right now, we're still in the same boat as everybody else. I'm not sure, Pat, if that answers your question, but
no, I just wondered if there had been any discussions to be anybody actually, of whether there was, we get to a certain level of vaccinations, or we get to a certain level of,
right.
If there'd been, just because you guys are big sort of provincially regulated facilities. So
not at this time, no. We don't have that at this time, but we'd certainly be interested in engaging in any of those conversations.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Jessica and Craig. Great presentation. And you can stay if you'd like, but we've got quite a bit of other stuff here we got to get to this meeting.
Great. Well, thank you so much to all of you for your time this morning, and for listening to us kind of drone on about our business. So thanks so much.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to be
Take
here.
care. Hopefully we can all come over and visit you.
That would be great. We'd welcome a tour.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 5.2 is Agricultural Zoning Working Group. Now, can you explain that a little, Pat?
actually, I think Brett can probably explain that.
Okay.
It was his need for some feedback.
I
Sure.
think it's a really good idea.
I think Pat mentioned to me earlier this week when we were setting the agenda for this group that there was perhaps a desire to maybe establish another working group or subcommittee of this of the Economic Development Task Force. The Economic Recovery subcommittee, I think, is not sure there's a lot left for them to do, so we can maybe talk about that afterwards. But one of the things that's been on the Economic Development Strategic Action Plan is to review and maximize the permitted agricultural businesses in our zoning bylaw. And then as well, more recently, when we had the presentation last spring, I think, before we went into into lockdown from the county on their attainable housing strategy. Janet brought up the topic of agricultural housing and farm worker housing. So at the staff level, we've been looking at the provincial documents on permitted uses on farms. And so I think it would be worthwhile to set up another subcommittee of this group that we could review the provincial guidance and take a look at our current agricultural zoning and see where we could make some alterations in order to maximize the permitted uses for like on-farm businesses and that type of thing. And as well as look at the worker housing issue.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
That was my idea.
I think it's a great idea. It does need a focus. We've got some focuses on several other things, but agriculture obviously is a key part of economic development. And so let's strike a committee. And of course, the first person I'm going to ask to be on the committee. Hi, Janet. Would you be on the committee?
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. It's a great opportunity. I know a lot of municipalities have been having agricultural groups that are committees that have ongoing meetings. So this would be great.
Okay, I guess seeing as you're our agricultural expert and I'm not, do you have anybody else that you would like on the committee? So we probably should have what, 4 people, 5 people, something like that. The other subcommittees have 4 or 5 people, and then Brett winds up there, or Pat, or the mayor, or there's other people in the committee as well. Do you have any other people that do?
From outside of this committee that I'd want to bring in? Is that what you're asking?
Preferably on the committee if we could.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, and maybe Devlin, you can help us on that. Can we have outsiders outside of this committee being on a subcommittee?
Not on a subcommittee. They should be part of this committee. We learned that last night at CSAC.
Did you? That's handy. So Janet, do you have is there anybody who would like to be on that agricultural committee?
Well, I kind of look around the screen here just to see who's got some, agricultural background and knowledge or interest. And I mean, Jim kind of jumps to mind, and Ted as well. So I don't know if anybody else has an interest in those areas. And Tony, of course.
I'll help you for sure, Janet.
Okay.
I'll jump in there as well.
Great.
I'm not much of a farmer, but I have had manure on my shoes before.
Oh, don't start, Neil. So what's that? That's 4 or 5.
Neil, Tony, Ted, myself. Jim, are you interested?
Jim, you're muted. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, so that's great. So there's your committee, and maybe you can work with Pat in the next week or so, or Devlin, to see if we get a meeting set up.
Okay.
And that'd be great. It's really it's good to see us going in that direction as well.
Don?
Yes, Mayor.
Can we make sure that this group, it's a good subcommittee to set up. Can we make sure that part of the mandate of that group is to tap into the circular food economy project with the county? Because there's going to be a lot of money flowing through that group, and I want to make sure that our agricultural businesses are linked into it, because the next phase is to really ramp up the number of external partnerships that can be established, and I want to make sure the County of Wellington's rural partners are very much part of that project. And I feel like if we don't do something deliberate, we might not be integrated the way we need to be.
So Tony, do you know about that program? You're on mute, Tony.
I'll get used to this one of these days.
Yeah, we're all the same.
Yeah, I am. I'm actually not part of it, but kind of work closely with a number of people in it. And the Resource Exchange Marketplace just got launched. And I can send that to Devlin and he can pass it around. But essentially, it's going to be an online marketplace for anybody within the food industry, agri-food sector that has material that could be utilized by somebody else within the circular economy, food economy. So, yeah, that's, I agree with Mayor Linton. That's an area that is growing and should be part of, should help within the agri-food marketplace, particularly at the producer level. They should be aware of that.
Well, that's good, Tony. If you could take that into the group, and I'll get just a second, Janet. So when you're talking about housing on the farms, is it possible? I'm wondering whether there should be somebody from the healthy growth community on that or available to go to that occasionally to try to get the healthy growth out into the agricultural as well.
So a couple points, Don. The housing strategy is really around and done in other areas, particularly Brett had shared a document from Leamington, because that was an area that, you know, has a lot more farm workers than we do in this area, but also there's been a lot of focus on them because of some of the COVID outbreaks and some of the requirements they're going to have. So it's really really looking at and building on some of the existing zoning, just so that when people do want to expand, have housing, that people at the building permitting office are familiar with it, and we have the background and policies in place and bylaws in place for them to be able to move forward. So the other piece is around the circular economy, and also the climate change coordinator from the county. I'm involved with both of those groups with from the Federation of Agriculture, and have been on those task groups from the beginning. And so I think that tapping into both of those resources, because there's difference of scale, and this is a part where agriculture has always struggled. We have the smaller scale, somewhat smaller scale local food initiative that can be ramped up to be larger. And then we have the larger scale, more manufacturing type agricultural businesses, and quite different. And the circular economy, it kind of started more at the local food level, and they're starting to expand out. And so I think some of the larger scale projects that we could be tapping into some of these dollars that Kelly's talking about are hugely valuable, because food processing and that type of thing in this region is a huge gap, abattoirs, that type of thing. So we need to be able to put some of that together, using some of the work that's already been done by the climate change coordinator, because she's done a ton of work in relation to agriculture, as well as the circular food economy.
Okay, that's great, Janet. So anyhow, just so if you do need some resources on that, you know, you can always come back and ask if we can appoint somebody to your group, just so you know the door's open. Okay, good. I think that's set. Pat and Devlin, I think we got the names and things underway. Okay, so the next one, 6.2, is the Economic Recovery Working Group. And we haven't come to a dead end yet, but we are getting towards the end of our ideas. And seeing as Sally is the kingpin in this, maybe you could tell everybody how far we are and sort of the schedule of what's happening.
I always know that's coming, Don, but it surprises me anyways.
Yeah.
Update. Let's start with the Google My Business project. It is rolling out. We did our first sessions at the end of April, assisting over 20 businesses either get set up or level up their Google My Business presence. Even, I'll admit, I thought we were already set up, and I was furiously taking notes in both the beginner and advanced sessions. So they really are valuable sessions. And Ecclestone's participated. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else here. really helpful because you do the work within the workshop. So it's a really 2 hours well spent, and you walk away with sort of things done. So 2 more sessions there, end of May and end of June. We have the recordings. We will make the recordings available towards that June date for people who just want to follow along and tackle it on their own. What else is on our project list? The digital welcome wagon is admittedly somewhat backburnered, but working on it, slowly getting the buy-in from realtors and builders, and we will jump into action just as soon as I get my summer student trained and ready to roll. I feel like I'm forgetting a project.
Yeah, maybe you could, do you know where Crystal is on the 2 people, like the digital Main Street stuff?
I know a little bit. Brendan is the staff that's assigned to our area. He's completed outreach to our membership list, to both the BIA lists. He's connected with the people who use their services in the past to make sure they're doing okay. And he's done quite a bit of outreach. He did a full Google analysis, which I just haven't analyzed the data on that yet, just to see what our starting point was, and then hopefully we can track that same data and see where our end point is as well. So he actually looked up every business in Center Wellington to the best of his ability and assessed where they were at on Google, and then reached out based on that, advocating obviously for the better your Google My Business listing is, and there's lots of processes to get it there. It just overall, it improves your Google ability, which is not an official word, but I seem to use it a lot.
Yeah, that's where they go out and get everybody to make sure they got a Google page that's functioning. And this is something that's going to be long lasting. It'll be good for years. It'll help these businesses for people to find them for years to come.
It's also, as we know, with a couple of apps maybe coming down the pipes through the county in different pieces, they pull a lot of the information from Google. We saw in that app demo, whenever that was, like a month or so ago, it's populating with that Google information. So it's a really valuable tool. As I say, I thought we were set up, and I was like learning in the beginner session. So highly recommend these pieces. And if you want that one-on-one support, that digital Main Street piece is going to be really critical.
Yeah. So Sally, these webinars you're doing, they are going to be available for download at the end of this, right?
Yes,
So
we'll have all 3 available for download. Well, all 6 really, 3 beginners, 3 advanced. With a description of each in terms of the types of businesses that participated, because that sometimes can direct the conversation. So sure. For example, I don't believe we had a restaurant on last month. So if Dennis were to rewatch that one, it may not be as helpful as another one could be. So it gives people the best choice to download, or they can download all of them and watch them all, but that would be a lot.
Okay. Anything else on the economic recovery? Like I say, we've gone through quite a few ideas. One of the ideas we talked about last time was to see if we could assemble sort of a help list for people for mental health, where they can get mental health. So it could be distributed out to the chamber members and the BIAs, just so that if somebody's in trouble, they can just make it more available. So that's one thing we're working on as well. So
the other piece would have been that the Dr. Mercer event, which we are still hoping to pull off. I was chatting with public health on something else this week, so they are still keen to pick a date. What that was hoping to be was a conversation between the mayor and Dr. Mercer, and just really get some truth into the hands of the business owners, and answer the questions and open up that conversation. So we are still working on that.
Yeah, good. Okay, healthy growth. Oh, sorry. Yes, Kelly.
Just a couple comments. Firstly, the Google Your Business, I got some really good feedback from that, Sally, from people who have done it. Really practical advice, and people got a lot out of it. And the people I talked to are going to be in the advanced course next, because it's such an important thing for businesses to have that done. So that was great and good to get that good feedback. On the other town hall set up with myself, Dr. Mercer, and then Helen Fishburne. We just wanted to make sure that basically it's going to come down to Dr. Mercer's time. Obviously, she's under the gun right now. She wants to do it, but we have to make sure that we're cognizant of everything else she's doing right now. So we're looking at sometime in early June. Hopefully the lockdown will be over and there'll be a little bit more of a positive vibe out there. So we like, and we'll work with Sally in the township to do something that's as interactive as possible. But we want to make sure, and Helen Fishberg from a mental health perspective, she's keen to do it as well. So we're really just going to work with that at Dr. Mercer's time and her options in June, and then we'll set something up. So I think that's good, and everybody's happy to do it. It's just we got to get the timing right.
Yep. Anyhow, another good project to help the community. Yes, Pat.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that the assistance that the county has played in providing the funding for the Google My Business, as well as the chamber allowing, they're not checking postal codes. So if anybody from around the county had wanted to participate or will eventually be able to see them. So we are helping to support the rest of the, some businesses in the rest of the county as well.
Good point, Pat.
Sorry,
Yes, Sally?
can I add one more thing? I think the working group's aware of it, but then I sort of went rogue for the past 2 weeks. But the chamber has, through our chamber network, we have access to rapid screening kits. So that is happening with more information to be rolled out officially from us over the next couple of days. The logistics have been very fun. My friend Ted has generously said I can use his lower level as a distribution center. This is going to be providing rapid screening tests or kits free of charge to any business in the county of Wellington for them to test their asymptomatic employees. The sort of reasoning behind that is, I think it's 1/3 of cases, one-third of cases are asymptomatic, and 50% of the transmissions are coming from asymptomatic. So if a business can conduct this testing with their team, the recommendation is twice a week. You're hopefully nipping those asymptomatic cases or in the bud of finding out about them, isolating, et cetera, and avoiding sort of a workplace outbreak. So more logistics to come again, but thanks to Ted for sharing his space with me. I'm going to be a squatter in his basement. The most tricky loophole here was that the kits are, after they've been used, are biohazardous waste. So I'm just confirming the logistics of a disposal bin, which will be in Ted's shed. Anyways, more details to come on that, but we're really excited to be able to bring that program to the businesses. It's not going to be necessary for every business, and obviously each employer makes that choice, but for some, it's going to be really important.
Good. Thank you, and thanks, Ted, for giving Sally a place to hang out. Okay, Mayor, what's going on with the county?
Well, the exciting news is the new grant program is running. I was just pulling it up here now. So that's good. So a maximum, and I think everybody has the information. I talked about it before. Yeah, you got it there, Don. So I don't have to go through it in detail. Basically, the maximum is $2,000 per business, and there's 3 streams to really help people recover from COVID. The important information to get out to businesses, it's a grant, not a loan, so they don't have to go further in debt, which is really, really positive. And again, we're working with our partners, Wellington, Waterloo Community Futures here in the center and the southern part of the county, and then Saugeen, I always forget what their name is. Saugeen Economic Development Corporation, I think, up in the northern part. So that's really good because they have really mastered the whole evaluation and the criteria perspective and pushing people through the processes as efficiently as possible with as little bureaucracy as possible. So that's what they do. So our partnership with them has been really good, and it's too bad that they weren't able to come today to the meeting, because I'd love to thank them in person. Rick Whitaker and his whole team there has done a really good job. We've provided some funds and the criteria, what we want to accomplish, and they've been able to make sure that they're achieving what our intent was behind it. So it's been a really good partnership that I can see using more in the future. But it's a real positive way for companies to access some of those funds that they maybe wouldn't be able to access and then not have to pay it back. So want to make sure that Center Wellington businesses take a good percentage of this opportunity. So let's make sure you use your networks and share the stuff that's coming out of the county. You can see it on my Facebook page. You see it on the county's Facebook page, the township economic development stuff. Make sure you share it to as many people as possible. Because it really is practical assistance for businesses who are really struggling to pay the extra costs that they have to through COVID and to kind of recover. Good opportunity for the county to provide some funds. And if we blow through the money quickly, there might be an opportunity to go back and see if we can expand this program further. We have a pretty positive economic development committee at the county right now who want to do whatever we can to help businesses. So we didn't know what the uptake was going to be, but let's get the word out there. And if we need to go back to the well for additional funds, where we don't have an endless supply of money, but we do want to help our businesses. So that's an update from me.
Good. That's great, and it's really great. Rick Whitaker is part of the group now. He's not able to be here today, but for delivering that kind of stuff it is the way to do it. It's so efficient. He's all set up for it, and between him and Crystal, they have access to funds. So it's anyhow, it's really good having all these people on the groups. Yes, Pat.
I just want to mention that that does open today, applications for that grant. And it is first come, first serve. So make sure that if you're interested, that you take a look at it today and get in, because and Center Wellington has always done very well in terms of getting businesses in quickly. So and it goes for patios and touch-free doors and all of those kind of things in the adaptation part of the grant. So be sure to take a look at it early and get an application in early.
So Sally and Kimberly, can you guys do a blast out to your list on that? Kimberly?
I think Sally already has.
Oh, did you? Okay, good.
I did a little one yesterday, and I'm writing another one right now.
Great, perfect. It's interesting how this stuff just starts working. Eh? It's just like it's really good. Okay, so the next thing is just trying to keep an eye on the clock here. Healthy Growth Committee. Healthy Growth has done the same thing as we've done with economic development, where we have committees on the side. And so they've got two. One is for regulatory stuff, bylaws and that sort of stuff. And the second one is for finance incentives or development charges or whatever. So it's kind of split in two as well. Which is really good, because the committees can really get a lot of stuff done. It's really quite exciting being on these committees, because stuff is happening. And maybe Mary, could you mention about the county? With Healthy Growth,
did you say mayor? Or did you say, okay, sorry, I heard Mary, and I'm like, we don't have a Mary on here, do we?
No, Mary. And I might have said Mary, but
yeah, no, it's exciting. And the reason that there's a tie back to this committee is that the attainable / affordable housing work that's being done out of the county, it falls underneath their economic development department. So there's a tie in there to what they're doing. So there's a real good synergy right now in the county's project. A working group has been developed to establish an attainable housing approach and a program for the whole county, and they're watching very closely what we're doing at Center Wellington, because we've moved further than any of the other municipalities right now, and it's probably because we have more of a sense of urgency than municipalities with their housing costs going sky high right now. So this is becoming an urgent challenge for us in Center Wellington. So the Healthy Growth Committee for the township is working ahead, and we're establishing a target and a definition of attainable housing. And then we're going to be driving as fast as possible towards some pretty practical recommendations to increase the supply of attainable housing in Center Wellington. The county then already has a project underway that looks at making housing more affordable. So what we want to make sure that we do is there's synergy there. We're not stepping on each other's toes. There's no gaps being developed where one group thinks the other group is doing something and they don't. Or we're moving in the same direction, doing the same thing, duplicating efforts. So I'm going to be on both committees, and it's kind of my job to make sure that that doesn't happen. The working group for the county's Attainable Housing Committee starts today. And they've adopted the project plan that our committee has established to make sure that we're tracking against the streams of work that we've identified as being important. So that's really good, because we're going to be using the same document, the same project plan, and then we're going to be identifying who's going to be doing what. We're looking at the potential of bringing on some external support and bringing on the same resource to support both the county and the township to make sure we're working together on things. So that's really exciting. We're doing it at the same time. We both have the same goal, and that's make it affordable to live in our town and live in our county. So we're going to be working together, and there is a huge economic development piece to this, because the reason why it's being led out of the economic development department in the county is because companies aren't being able to get a workforce because people can't afford to live here. So if they can't afford to live here, they don't have enough, there's no transit to get them to a place of work. If they live in Kitchener or Guelph, that's a huge issue and a huge barrier to a lot of companies. We've done surveys and they've identified access to a workforce is an issue because people can't afford to live in the place that they work. So both projects are going together. You can be sure that we're going to be working together. We're not going to duplicate effort, and we're going to drive to action as fast as possible, because there's a sense of urgency here. We have a really, really good healthy growth committee made up of solid individuals with passion for our community and the skill set that goes along with that, a variety of different skill sets. So we're going to have some real good discussions. Things are starting to roll. We're starting to build momentum. It took a while to get there, which was frustrating for a number of us. But now we're starting to move, and we're going to be moving fast. It's good to see that happening, and it's really important that we have a clear liaison back and forth with this group here, because we're moving in the same direction. Our focus is a little different, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this is a community that's the best place to live and work. So we'll make sure that we provide updates to this committee as we get some action.
I agree, and just an example. So if the healthy growth, so I'm on the financial part of it. So if we make a recommendation that something happens with the DC charges, well, the DC charges on a new build have a township component and a county component, and if we can get both those components to be reduced, it's going to help get to the end. And so that's really, and I agree 100% with Kelly. It's a great opportunity to actually get some stuff done, and I truly think it'll be fairly quickly. Yeah. Okay. One thing I jumped over, was the business park strategy, and maybe Brett, can you give us a bit of an update on that?
Sure. The business park group, we've met a couple of times a month now for the last few months. If this committee recalls, we retained McSweeney and Associates to do the business park strategy, and we were a little behind schedule in actually kicking off the project, but seeing the passion of the individuals on the subcommittee, McSweeney really ramped up the completion of the report. So we made great progress through the meetings that we've had, and McSweeney's original date for delivery of the report was going to be, the end of June, and it's actually done. The final draft report is in mine and Pat's hands, and we'll be reviewing it, I think, one more time at the Business Park Committee. We have a meeting next week, and then so our goal is our June agenda of this committee will be able to endorse that report and bring it forward to council. So that's great news that we've moved up to being ahead of schedule. And then in the meantime, on the business park, we've got a bunch of the studies that we have to do for the class environmental assessment to build the road. The environmental impact study is underway. Review of the heritage house that's on the property is underway. We're working on a more detailed concept plan following what McSweeney's produced, putting some more detail on it, on what the width of the road needs to be and that sort of thing. We're looking at adding a 3-meter wide multi-use path adjacent to the road for cyclists and people walking. Now we're going to plan for a connection to the Elora Cataract Trailway, because this property abuts the trailway. So it's looking really good. Everybody's anxious to put a shovel in the ground, but we're doing all the things that we have to do first. So
yes, it's really good to see it coming along, and the group is really charged. Stuff is happening, and I know, Pat, maybe tell us how many people you've got on a list, Pat, are looking for land.
Well, I'm sure Jim will be happy to hear this too. We have had no lack of interest in the lands. I probably have 5 or 6 businesses that I have on the list already, and I probably have interest in somewhere around 18 acres already. In fact, I've just had an email from someone who already wants to give us money to secure his spot in the park. So the demand has really ramped up this year for land. We've having multiple inquiries on pieces. So that all bodes very, very well for the future of this business park.
Yes, it is really good to see, and anyhow, it's great. It's a team effort, and it's coming along. And like Brett says, everybody on the committee wants to have an excavator sitting there, starting to dig holes and put pipes in the ground. So, and we need it. We need the jobs, and we need the housing. All these things all fit together. So it's really great. Okay, economic development update, Pat.
Nothing more than I put in there. April was a month of really dealing with land issues, really dealing with land inquiries, and dealing with not pre-consultations, but dealing with businesses that have developments underway. I sort of act as a liaison between the clients and some of our staff. If we're not getting if they don't think that they're getting from us what they need, or we aren't getting from them, but we need to be able to finish site plans, those kind of things. I act as the liaison, and April was a month of doing quite a bit of that, and quite a bit of working on policies and talking to the consultants about the policies that will guide the business park going forward, land sales, how our process works. So a lot of those things will be in place before the park ever opens. So that's sort of what I spent most of April on.
Yeah, it's really good because it's so many things happening at the same time: the engineering and marketing, and setting up with the township who's in charge of it. Like there's all this other stuff going on, so that we can all get to the end hopefully at the same time. That's the goal. So anything else on the economic update? Has anybody else got anything? Jim, anything?
Well, the only thing that I can say is I'm glad to hear that Jerry Coon is coming back to Fergus and has put an offer in on some of our land. So that's great news.
Yep. Anybody else? Yes, Janet.
Just really a quick question for Pat. There's been some discussion, and it does have an impact on, it's more tourism based, but of course that all has a economic impact, significant economic impact for our municipality, is the EDCO app that the county was looking at implementing. Do you have any update or have any knowledge about that, Pat? Or
No,
Kelly, I guess?
From my perspective, no. I mean, you were on the call on Tuesday where we talked about where they just briefly said that I had thought that it was a done deal, them implementing this app. And we found out at the last meeting that it was, they were still doing some research. I don't know whether there are other options that they might want to take a look at, or they're negotiating price. I'm not sure beyond sort of what they told us. I know that the economic development officers are all in favor of the county implementing that app, and we were all willing to work with them on how that would be implemented.
Yeah, because for everybody, it's an app that as a business you can. It's sort of like it ties into Google My Business because it's a similar kind of look at you that are coming to your community, that they can use it to figure out where they want to go and what they want to do that day. They can access it when they're on the trails to see what businesses are nearby. Businesses can put incentives in through this app to draw people into their stores, and it looks quite good. And the discussion was that it would be purchased at the county and that it would be free for businesses within the county. So yeah, I had to leave the meeting Tuesday a little early. I was hoping that we would be closer to having something actionable at this point, but I guess not. Okay.
Thank you, Janet. Just a question, I guess, to Kelly. The close down of the streets in Elora and Fergus, I guess they're not going to happen until after the 20th. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I wanted to follow up with Janet though. I'll look into that. I'm not aware of that. I don't know the discussions, but I'm interested in where that is. So I'll follow up on that one. The streets, yeah, no, I can't imagine anything's going to happen legally until the lockdown's over. And then I'm hoping that we're ready to go as soon as it's over and open things up.
Good. Yes, McLean.
Hi, it's just an update there, Kelly. The last conversation that I had with Dorothy regarding the street closures is that no one would be expecting the street closure until we were out of the stay-at-home order.
Right.
So I think everyone's sort of on that same page. We just sort of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
But I know that McLean will be able to attest to the fact that all of our, everybody who wants a patio, those permits are in, they're underway. They're businesses are getting ready to be able to implement them as soon as we can go out and visit them again, to visit the restaurants again. And I know that Elora is been planning for how those streets are going to look when they are closed. And you'll note that the 15-minute pickup signs are now out in downtown Elora to allow the pharmacy and a variety of other businesses to have quicker access to pickup.
Good. All good stuff, folks. So anybody got anything else? I think we're pretty well through the agenda. Seeing none, I guess we'll wind her up.
I just wanted to say thank you to Pat because it is her last meeting, and retire in peace, young lady. You've earned it. Enjoy.
Thank you. And to be honest, this is one of the best economic development committees I've ever worked with in 30 years in municipal government, and really appreciate the passion and what kind of community champions that you all are for your community.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in the stores, Pat. We want to make sure, we don't want you to be like the people we were talking about in healthy growth that, shop where they work. We still want you to shop here.
Absolutely. You can be sure I'll be spending some of my pension funds up there.
Good, good. That's good.
I'd just like to say thanks to Pat too, because years ago we talked about getting some industrial land and getting a park going, and Pat was quite agreeable to it. But over the years it was quite frustrating. But finally, Kelly, we got it. And I'd like to thank you too, and Pat, for just felt that you were doing a great job, but it would have just given you the extra tools. You would have been able to accomplish more, but you've done a lot, and thank you very much.
You're welcome. Jim was one of the first people who came into the office after I started working at the township to talk to me about industrial land. So I have not forgotten that.
Well, thank you, and I wish you the best in your retirement. I've been retired now for 26 years, but I seem to keep active. I think you will too.
Well, I hope I get that many years in. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you do too.
Yeah. Thank you. Kate, do you have anything at all before we wind up? You're good?
Nope.
Just want to make sure I touch base everywhere here. Anyhow, thanks everybody. Let's keep hoping that we get freed up on the 20th.
Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Close the meeting. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Pat.